with someone you love, someone you care for. I'm talking about a deeper, higher love over here, which words cannot express. And when you are in love, nothing actually hurts you or troubles you. For example, for those people who have ever been in love, I'm not usually going to say fall in love, they are in love with someone else, as in a physical person, and those beginning stages of the relationship, everything seems amazing and perfect. If somebody says something to you, you are simply in a different world and you say, it's okay, it's perfectly fine. That's how they see their life. That's how they perceive things. I can only send them love. That's all you do. But the moment we get out of it, or we move out of that initial stages, we start blaming and complaining and moaning and judging because we are no longer in a state of love. And that is why it's very important to remind yourself, what makes me go into that state of love? And when we are in that state of love, it's easier for us to actually progress, to be successful, or let's put it this way, be in a neutral place where we are no longer judgmental, our consciousness is at a higher level, and we can just be at peace with ourselves. And the way I discovered for myself through my journey is through this thing called compassion, which actually goes into the next chapter. So if you look at the next chapter, it is mortgage on your soul. Now, this is not my term. This is a term which was coined by Dr. Hewlin, who actually took a Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono and popularized it across the globe. Now, Ho'oponopono means making things right, correcting things. Many people confuse Ho'oponopono as a forgiveness prayer, but it's more than that. It is beyond that. So if we look at it, I'll just read the first part of this about Dr. Hewlin. So just to give you an idea what Ho'oponopono is all about, or mortgage on your soul. The story goes, there was once a therapist in Hawaii who is said to have healed an entire ward of psychiatric patients considered to be criminally insane, all without seeing a single one of them for therapy. The therapist has often said that it was about removing the accumulated mortgage on your soul. What that means is you use this philosophy and you take 100% responsibility. And you'll see many people in many books and even thought leaders and spiritual leaders saying taking 100% responsibility. People often confuse 100% responsibility with the blame game, and they confuse it with guilt, feeling ashamed. It's got nothing to do with that. Now, if you look at the concept of Ho'oponopono, this is where it goes a bit strange for many people. So anything that is in your life and impacts you in any way is your responsibility and yours alone to deal with it. It is not about taking the blame. It is about taking 100% responsibility of what happens within you. So taking care of your emotions. Many people talk about thoughts and that you need to change thoughts. But here's the thing. Every thought has an emotion associated to. You may take care of the thought, but if you have not taken care of the emotion, then the thought will not change. So you need to take care of that emotion, which is attached to that thought. So going a bit more deeper in it, which I've written in the chapter, is to take responsibility. Literally, everything may sound extreme, and it is unarguably a difficult thing to accept and live with. Yeah. So Are we responsible? Here comes the question is, if we are 100% responsible, are we now responsible for the pandemic which has happened in the globe? Are we responsible of terrorism which is happening across the globe? Are we responsible for the sexual abuse which happens to people from young age to God knows what ages? Now, if you look at it from a very energy perspective, yes, we are, because as a collective conscious, that is what we've decided to actually create in our external world. Now, this may sound very philosophical and very woe, but honestly, when we look at it very closely, when we are in a state of, we realize our collective conscious is extremely powerful and can actually create or destroy things around ourselves. And therefore, coming back, we need to be in a state of love, because when we are in a state of love, we actually create beautiful and wonderful things. The destruction is there for a reason as well, for us to make us realize we need to amplify our awareness, raise our awareness. So the destruction plays a part as well. Just because something has happened which is not right in our lives doesn't mean, or what we label right or wrong, it doesn't mean that it is right or wrong. It is a learning which we have to learn from that. And this is very tough to take it in. It's extremely tough for people to take that in, that how can I take a responsibility for someone who comes and slaps me on the face? How can I take responsibility for someone who actually is bad to me at work or is actually abusive in my relationship? It is not taking responsibility of that slap. It is not taking responsibility of that sexuality, of that sexual abuse. It is taking responsibility of the feelings, the emotions which are going through you. And this is what they call is data just accumulates, and we just focus on data and we make life more tough for us. Unfortunately, from a very young age, we've not been taught about this. We have been taught how to memorize things. It's like in India, we say, ratta marna hame sikha diya hai. No one has actually taught us how to develop us on an emotional level, on a spiritual level. So because of that, we are always accumulating this mortgage on our soul. Now, and this is why it's very important when we look at things, we need to take responsibility. It doesn't mean that you won't get angry, you will. It doesn't mean you will not get upset, you will, because that is how you've been conditioned from a very young age. We've been conditioned through our parents, through our society, from our schools, from the media. Hindi movies are an amazing example of emotional melodramatic conditioning, which actually, in my view, in many times ruins our lives. Yeah. Even the songs which are played of, hi, my heart is broken, you know, everything is in tatters, I need to commit suicide. It's a load of BS. Yes, it is painful, but here's the thing, the heart never gets broken. It is our ego which gets hurt. It is our expectations which get hurt. And because of that, we actually create so many stories for us that we actually are so much entangled. We are entangled in that. And it just makes things, and we carry this on till the age we die, till the time we die, we carry it on. And this is where Arjun talks about parallel reality, where can you shift your frequency and vibration to a parallel reality, and you are no longer entangled or emotionally invested on those stories which bring us down. And that is where you start questioning yourself in a most assertive manner. You start wondering things. So Arjun is a guru at that. So if he gets the opportunity through his book talk, he will probably bring that in. It is up to him how he does that. But this is where you go into a different thing. So that's chapter 2. And this is where I say peace begins with you. Yeah. Peace begins with you, no one else. And if you can find peace within yourself, it is easier to accept things around you and move on with things. Now, many people consider peace, when I say peace begins with you, they start taking into a religious term. I have no religion affiliation. I'll make it very, very clear. Yes, I have a respect for all the studies in all the religions, but I am in no way affiliated to any religion. Yes, I was born into a Hindu family because my parents gave me that religion. I was conditioned into that religion. However, I have stopped looking at it that way, and I look at peace being something which is the foundation. And when that foundation is able, you take care of that foundation, we're able to move on, be successful, and take assertive actions, be it small actions, to make a beautiful life for ourselves. And that doesn't mean you have to be famous on social media or be a celebrity. So this is about the second part. Now, the third is compassion is the key, where I talk a bit more about compassion. How did I come across compassion? Well, it's interesting. This was many, many, many years ago when my relationship with my former wife collapsed. It literally collapsed. And it was because of my self-sabotaging thoughts, feelings, and actions. It took me many years to take responsibility for that. And the reason why I was able to take responsibility is because I came across something called The Art of Happiness, a book written by Dalai Lama and Howard Cutler. And it goes into this thing about, yes, love is amazing. It's a great, sweet emotion. And when you have that love, you have great joy. And the book starts off by saying everyone's goal is to be happy, to have joy. And in order to do that, you need this sweet emotion called love. But in order to get that sweet emotion, love, you need to have compassion. Now, different ways we can look at compassion. Many people associate the word compassion to pity. Unfortunately, or let me put it in a better way, fortunately, I'm unable to associate it to pity, and I'm happy I don't associate it to pity. The way I see compassion is empathy, kindness, and care, which allows you to discover solutions, be it for yourself or someone else. An example of what I would call compassion in a day-to-day life, which you might do it with your loved ones, is, for example, someone who's close and dear to you, who are upset. Many people, what they do is, instead of telling them what to do, they actually console them. They show them kindness. They show them care. They show them empathy. They listen to them. And once that is done, they help them discover a solution to move forward. A simple act of compassion with a loved one could be a hug when they're crying. So that's a simple act of compassion, because that is the solution that was required for that moment. Now, let's look at it from a very different perspective. When you're at work, someone is not good with you. Someone is not is being rude with you. Now, the automatic reaction which we've been conditioned into is that I need to retaliate. I need to stand up to them. I need to show them who I am, what is my point. Usually when we do that, usually what happens is we go into this pendulum scenario where from a passive person, we go into an aggressive person. But when we are in a compassionate state, we come into this, what we call is the assertive state, where we will talk to the other person with respect, show our point of view without the aggression or without being passive. That's what you start doing. Now, people might say, hey, Rohith, that doesn't work. Yes, it might not work, because next thing you know, you could be fired because you actually said something to the other person. Now that's a call which you need to take. Is this the appropriate action you need to take? And that's an inner calling. And we all know when that inner calling comes up. Many of times when we are in a state of resistance, we are in a state of unclarity. It's because all our conditioning is not resonating with our inner core values or who we truly are, what our unique reason for being on this physical plane is. And this is where compassion helps you to neutralize and helps you to move up to that higher conscious state. So that is compassion is the key. Now, then we go into the next chapter, which is the exercise, which is a life of self-compassion. Now, there are three main exercises. And when I discuss this in the book, I say to the people, I say in the book is, when you're doing this exercise, you can write it down. A lot of people say that by writing, you seal a contract, that you are able to express yourself. I've got nothing against that. It's your call how you want to do that. And I recommend people to do that. Here's the thing. Some people just don't like writing. So that doesn't mean you can't do the exercise. You can still do the exercise. And before there was writing existing, we used to draw, we used to paint. And even before that, we used to communicate as cavemen, like, that's how we used to communicate. So we need to communicate with ourselves one way or the other, and it's not necessary we need to do it with writing. So I say in the book, when you do this exercise, there's what you literally do is you can do it verbally or internalize it and give instruction to yourself. So there's three exercises which happen in the book. And if everyone is comfortable, we can do the exercise now. Yeah. So the first part of the book, the first exercise is what I call is chant your name.
Excuse me, Rohit, sir. Just want to know how much time you would need more just to...
About 5 minutes.
Thank you so much.
Is that okay?
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the three exercises, the first is chant your name. The second is Ho'oponopono, and third is gratitude from you. So when I say chant your name, all you do is, so the sweetest word which exists in your universe, not in my universe, in your universe, in your world, is your own name. So usually when I do this exercise, what I tell people is put their hands on their heart. So if you can put your hands on your heart, close your eyes, and minimum within yourself, if you're on your own, then you can say it out loud. If you're around people, then you can just whisper it to yourself and just say your name. So in my case, I would literally say Rohith, Rohith, Rohith. Yeah. So minimum 3 times. And when you increase it, always increase it by 3. The reason I ask people to put their hands on their heart is because we always will not be in a silent place. But the moment we put our hands on our heart, all our awareness goes over there and silence comes automatically. It's a natural thing which happens. So that's one, chant your name. The second one is Ho'oponopono. Same thing, this is what we do. We put our hands on our heart. Yep. We say our name, and then we say, this is all we do. So example, I would say, Rohith, thank you. I love you. Rohith, thank you. I love you. Rohith, thank you. I love you. So you would use your own name and do that, because you're thanking yourself. How many times in a day do you actually thank yourself? We thank the person who delivers us food. We thank the people who give us our salary. We thank the person who cleans the house. But how many times do we actually be thankful to ourselves, to our own existence, to our own life? Very few of us do that. And the final one is gratitude from you. Now, gratitude is a very strange thing, which people talk about it, yet many people actually are not applying it. They just say gratitude for the sake of it. It's been proven through across the globe how powerful gratitude is. For example, when the Vietnam War happened, as the Americans call it, or the world call it, but Vietnamese call it the American War, the veterans who had gone back home to the US, they actually practiced gratitude. And the ones who actually practiced gratitude, they saw that they got much more calmer, much quicker, and they could find a greater purpose in their lives. Now, just imagine someone gone from a war and mentally very unstable, doesn't know what's going to happen in life, and they apply gratitude to their lives. And throughout centuries, gratitude has been one of the key factors. So when you do gratitude, I would recommend you give gratitude to the smallest things in life. For example, I am drinking a drink. This is not alcohol by any way whatsoever. It is actually Red Bull. So I'm thankful for this drink. I'm thankful for this glass, because if this glass wasn't there, where would I put the drink? I would have to drink it like this or through the can, which I would feel uncomfortable with him. I'm thankful for the lime in this. I'm thankful for the ice in it. So it's the smallest things. I look at myself on a daily basis. I go into the shower. The first thing I am thankful is for the tap and the shower instrument. Why? Because if you remember in the young days, how did we have shower? We would fill the bucket up and take the other jug, and we would pour it on ourselves. And that was very inconvenient. But now you have this instrument called a shower. Wow, it's a miracle. Switch it on, it just flows in. I'm thankful for the pipes which bring the water to me. Now, we take all this for granted, but these are great blessings which we've had through the centuries. And so these are the three things which the actual book ends up with is. On a final note, what I recommend is in the book, then you have 90 empty pages. Here you can write your notes of how you're feeling about doing the 3 exercises, or you can actually write up the 3 exercises. That's entirely up to you. So it's literally a 30 minutes read, 90 seconds exercise, and life transforming. And that's it. Questions?
Thank you so much, Rohith. Thank you, Niaz, for a wonderful session that you attended. I started practicing my gratitude from here. Great, such a mesmerizing session. You touched the heart of everyone over here. We had a shift in our vibration and the frequency. And the thing which you rightly mentioned, the quantity versus quality, it's not about what quantity that you are reading, it's about the quality, the questions that you ask, the answers that you get. Between the question and answer, there is a workshop for imagination, there is a workshop for creativity. We were all taught to give the answer for the questions that are given to us, but we never taught to ask the right questions. And you are so lovely, Rohith, to say that copy and paste every word that you can and touch the heart of many, your books. And Honopono, such a wonderful concept. With this, I would like to move on to the next speaker since we do not have a time. So we will do a Q&A with a combined session once Arjun is done. So I would like to invite once again, Anil sir here.
Thank you, Niaz. Thank you, Rohith. You are a profound thinker, very penetrating thoughts, very penetrating thoughts. You deserve a standing ovation due to the virtual world restrictions. We can do that. Thank you for that wonderful session. Now, coming back to our second speaker for today, you can't be lonely if you like the person you are alone with. One of my all-time favorite quote from Wayne Dyer: judgment prevents us from seeing the good that lies beyond appearances. Arjun Aiyar is going to unfold the book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, book written by Wayne Dyer. Coming to Arjun Aiyar is an entrepreneur, life coach, trainer, motivational speaker. Director, Step Management Solutions. He has completed his master's from Bond University in Australia, distinction computer programming qualification from the United Kingdom, and bachelor's from famous Satnam College, Bombay. Arjun conducts special sessions in many universities in and around UAE. He's a passionate speaker, life and professional coach. He's also an NLP practitioner. I got more things to say due to time constraints. Let me invite the energy alchemist, Arjun Aiyar. Arjun, please.
Thank you very kindly. Thank you very kindly. That's amazing. That's amazing. Verse 49, verse 49 of the Tao Te Ching, Tao Te Ching, verse 49 of the Tao Te Ching. The sage has no fixed mind. The sage has no fixed mind. He is aware of the needs of others. He is aware of the needs of others. Those who are good, he treats with goodness. Those who are bad, he also treats with goodness, because the nature of his being is good. He is kind to the kind, and he is also kind to the unkind, because the nature of his being is kindness. Great day to all of you here today. It's a pleasure to be with you. And I am going to take just a little bit of time today to share with you my personal philosophy. My personal philosophy. And my is me. This is who I am. I discovered this philosophy when I was 13 years old. I discovered the title of this philosophy in 2012, when I was about 40 years old. Today, I'm going to talk to you about a book called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. I was introduced to the science of martial arts when I was 13 years old, and the symbol of yin and yang. The yin yang symbol is known to people around the world. You probably could see the symbol in your mind. And if you can see the yin yang symbol in your mind right now, just give me a thumbs up or a wave and do something with your hands right now to acknowledge to me that you know what the yin yang symbol is. Yeah, most of you would. Yeah, it's very commonly available, and it's representative of Eastern philosophy. And the yin yang symbol symbolizes the male and the female, the light and the dark, good and evil, the profound and the profane, the sinner and the saint. And it symbolizes together balance. It symbolizes unity and diversity. It symbolizes the coexistence of opposites. It symbolizes paradox. And the word paradox is prevalent, ubiquitous, all through the philosophy of Taoism or the Tao Te Ching. And this philosophy is a philosophy that resonated hugely with me when I was young. And then I was beaten down by the logical world, by education, by society. And I kind of put that aside. And later on in life, when I discovered spirituality and just came into my own power, I allowed the expression of this philosophy. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about this book before we get going. And before that, I want to tell you, I'd like to describe this book to you in one word. And the description of this book in one word, that one word is the word harmony. Harmony, Harmony. That's the one word that describes this whole book. And it was fascinating for me today to wake up and look at my phone and to see the headlines as a peace treaty between the United Arab Emirates and Israel. Can you raise your hand if you guys read that or saw that? Did you guys see that? Okay, good. Now, when I saw that for the first time, my eyes went about this wide, primarily because it was almost unbelievable. This was something which, if someone had told you would happen even a year ago, or 2 or 3 or 5 years ago, you and I would have said, no way, Jose, impossible, cannot happen, will not happen in this lifetime. Now, perhaps there will be those who are still pessimistic about this whole process, or might think that it may or may not work out. Me personally, I'm just an eternal optimist. Heck, I'm a utopian kind of guy. And I believe that every book starts with the first chapter. And this could be, in my humble opinion, perhaps the first chapter of a harmonious relationship in the Middle East, starting with a peace treaty between the UAE and Israel, which is really, really fantastic. And I think how fascinating, how synchronistic, how serendipitous that it happens on a day where I am speaking about a book that has impacted me tremendously. Now, this is a book which I have read probably, there are some chapters in this book that I've read over 10 times. There are some chapters in this book that I've read 3 or more times. But at the very least, I would have read this book 3 times. And I go back to the chapters over and over again. This book was written it was written throughout the year of 2006. All throughout the year of 2006, this book was being written. The author spent 4 days on each chapter. And the book was published in the year 2007. Okay. Now, the book is an interpretation. It is a translation. This book is actually a book about a book. That's what it is. It's a book about a book. It is an interpretation, and it is a translation of an ancient Chinese scripture called the Tao Te Ching. And now Western pronunciation pronounces it as Tao, T-A-O. Eastern pronunciation pronounces it as Tao, T-A-O. And it doesn't matter what you call it. Call it the Tao, call it the Tao. I think Tao just rolls off my tongue, and therefore I call it the Tao Te Ching. It's available in most bookshops around the world and online on most forums as well. The genre of the book is philosophy, morality, theology, spirituality, esoteric, and inspiration. That's the genre of the book. Now, whenever I have spoken about this book, I have been a little conscious and conscientious because not everybody is in a state of readiness, perhaps, to receive the information that this book shares. In fact, the greatest enemy of this book has been pragmatism. And when human beings come forth with a left brain and say, hey, this won't work because that is the opponent of this book. And the beauty of this philosophy is this philosophy does not consider anything to be an opponent. And therefore, when I have received opposition to the views in this book, I merely humbly bow down and give respect and reverence to that opposition. And I permit the existence of that opposing point of view. Now, let me use the Tao philosophy and share something from the Tao philosophy itself, and this is paraphrased. Okay, here's what it says. So this is about in the presence of opposition, in the presence of conflict, in the presence of offense, in the presence of attack. Here's what it says, and this is paraphrased. Okay, so there are 14,000 translations of the Tao Te Ching. 14,000. This is the most translated book on the planet after the Bible. So the Tao Te Ching is an ancient Chinese scripture. Now, the Tao Te Ching has been written in ancient Chinese characters. It has 5,000 Chinese characters in it. Now, 14,000 different people have interpreted it in 14,000 different ways. Because ancient Chinese language and ancient Chinese symbolism itself has multiple meanings. The Chinese language, just like Japanese, is a pictographic script. The script is called pictographic. I say this because I studied Japanese. I can speak fundamental basic Japanese. And I'm proud to say that in my class, I even topped the class in conversational Japanese. So I learned to write Japanese. So in English, you write A to Z, 26 characters. In Japanese, there are 3 different scripts. In English, there's just one script of 26 characters. There's a script called hiragana, which is the Japanese words, katakana, where they use Western words. When they're writing Western words, they use katakana. So in Japanese, for example, the word toilet is pronounced as toire. Toire, T-O-I-R-E, is the Japanese word for toilet. When you write the word toire, you use script number 2, katakana. But you also have a Japanese word called benjyo. When you write benjyo, you use hiragana, a different script. Now there's a third script called kanji. And kanji is originally from Chinese scripture. And kanji has over 10,000 characters in it. Just imagine, you and me have to study 26 characters. In Japan and in China, by the time a child is in the 5th or the 6th grade, they have already studied approximately 2,000 of those pictographic scripts. So the word tree, for example, is like the drawing of a tree. Right? That's how it is. So when you actually learn a little bit about the language, you start figuring out how they think. The Chinese philosophy, Eastern philosophy has a lot to do with flow. That's where Taoism comes from. So I was talking about response to offense. This is how the Tao Te Ching responds to opposition and offense. It says there is great peace. There is great peace in non-response. Let me say that again. There is great peace in non-response. So when someone offends you and that ego need you feel to offend back, that is unpeaceful. But there is great peace in non-response. And then it says, furthermore, in not needing to respond, there is great joy. That's Tao philosophy at its best. There is great peace in non-response. Furthermore, in not needing to respond, there is great joy. When I studied the martial arts, my teacher taught me it's a lot about flow. You may have seen the movie Karate Kid. And it had part 1, part 2, part 3. The Japanese master there was called Master Miyagi, right? And Master Miyagi told his protege, his student, Daniel-san, he said, when punch come, you know be there. You know be there, which means when the punch comes, all you do is step aside, and the guy, there was a scene in the movie where this guy tries to punch Master Miyagi. Master Miyagi moves aside. The guy breaks the window of a car, and the guy's hand starts bleeding. There is great peace in non-response. Furthermore, in not needing to respond, there is great joy. That's the philosophy of the Tao. So that's the genre, okay? Now, the author of the Tao Te Ching, the original scripture, was this guy, okay? And his name is Lao, L-A-O, Lao Tzu, T-S-U. And when you translate the words Lao Tzu, the words Lao Tzu literally from Mandarin to English translates into old man or old master. So they figured out that this cannot be his name. It was an honorific. For example, doctor, Mr., that those are honorifics, right? Prefixes given to the name. Conjecture has it that his name was Er Li. But they're not too sure because this is all history and some of these records have been lost. Now, Lao Tzu was a scholar, a savant, a prophet, a curator of ancient texts and scriptures. He was the keeper of the imperial archives in the ancient Chinese capital of Luoyang. And in a word, his philosophy was harmony. Now, what he did was he was very frustrated at that time. This guy, let's just call him Lao Tzu, even though that was not technically his name. He was upset at the disharmony with the conflict, with duality, with division, with the whole thought process of you are that person and I am this person. And today we see a lot of dualism being played out. polarity. For example, I am tall, you are short, I am Hindu, you are Muslim, you are Christian, you are Indian, you are Arab, you are white, you are brown, you are Jew, religious dualism, racial dualism, educational dualism, economic dualism. This created a lot of turmoil within Lao Tzu. So he got onto his donkey and he started driving away. And then he came to this place which was like a passage. And at that passage, there was a watchman, and the watchman recognized Lao Tzu. And this guy who was the guard, he said, Lao Tzu, I cannot let you go. I need you to, I just cannot leave you because you're a wise man. Now, according to story, and nobody knows if this is true or not, this is still conjecture, this is still assumption. The Lao Tzu dictated the Tao Te Ching to the guard, to the watchman. And the Tao Te Ching was 5,000 Chinese characters in 81 different verses. 81 different verses. And the verse that I read to you at the beginning was verse number 49. That was verse number 49. Okay, and just like that, there are 80 more, so a total of 81 verses of the Tao Te Ching. The number 8, if you take the number 8 and you put the number 8 on its side, take the number 8 and put the number 8 on its side, that's the symbol for infinity. And infinity is a representation of consciousness. Infinity is a representation for energy, for God, for the universe, for divine. You look at any scripture, any religion, and you read between the lines and sometimes even very directly about what that divinity is. The prophet who actually talks about divinity in any form, regardless of where you come from, what kind of a thought process you come from, speaks about divinity and universe from the perspective of infinity. That's the number 8. 81. And then you have the number 1. And the number 1 is the number for unity, oneness, all together. The one expressing itself as the many. The many has its origin in the one. And that's an infinite number of forms. 81 verses, Tao Te Ching. And then there was this guy. So, I mean, there's the meaning. I know I'm looking at the time. I'm conscious. I'm going to talk a little bit about the author, and then I'm going to start wrapping up and just leave it with you to discover this book. Once again, I will say that I share the ideas of this book with no insistence that you should read it, because that is the philosophy of the Tao. I share the concept of this book with no insistence that you should take any interest or follow any of these principles, because the Tao is all about flow. It's about allowing rather than insisting. Wayne Dyer spent a whole year studying the Tao Te Ching. He got hold of 10 different translations, 14,000 translations. He picked up 10. One of those translations, I believe, was the translation by Stephen Mitchell. I think there was one by Alan Watts, but I'm not too sure about the Alan Watts one, but I know he studied Stephen Mitchell's translation of the Tao Te Ching. Wayne Dyer has passed away in 2015, lived from the year 1940 to 2015. Wayne Dyer has written over 40 books. So like I said, this is a book about a book. The original book is the Tao Te Ching. What I'm talking to you about is the translation of the Tao Te Ching, because if you read the Tao Te Ching, either it's in Chinese or if you read the English translation, it's so cryptic that when you read the sentences, sometimes it makes no sense, because it's philosophy, the Chinese language being translated into English, and the author's best interpretation. That's what it is. Wayne has done the hard work for us by making it easy. Wayne Dyer wrote 40 books. 21 of those 40 books were New York Times bestsellers. He's been on radio shows, televisions. He's been interviewed by Oprah, Deepak Chopra, Tony Robbins, yada, yada, yada. Huge repertoire. And Wayne Dyer dedicated 4 days to each verse. He would read the verse, study the verse, meditate on it, read the verse in different translations, go for a swim in the ocean. He was in Maui in Hawaii. Is a very spiritually evolved soul. And then towards the end of day number 4, just in about half a day, he wrote the chapter about the book. every chapter, at the end of the chapter, has a section called Do the Tao Now, where this is Wayne Dyer's recommendation for application of that particular chapter. So it's a fascinating read. I'd like to close with verse 16 and verse 29 of the Tao Te Ching, because it's very relevant for the scenario that we are in today. Verse 16. And again, this is a paraphrased version. Remember, there are many translations. Different authors take the Chinese scripture and say it in different ways. I've taken a mixture of it and I've just kind of put it over here as part of my notes. But the concept is pretty much bang on. Verse 16. Verse 16. So I read verse 49, now verse 16. Great beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. Once again, great beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. Hidden in all misfortune is good fortune. What's coming to an end now? People are ending their jobs, ending their relationships, ending their contracts, ending one phase of their life and starting another phase of their life. Hidden in all misfortune is good fortune. Verse 16 of the Tao Te Ching. Verse 29. Verse 29 of the Tao Te Ching. Any season will not last forever. Any season will not last forever. Things will change. This is nature's law. Lao Tzu said, nature's law is nothing can last forever. Winter must end and summer must start. Summer must end and winter must start. Whenever a situation, I like this, whenever a situation develops to its extreme, it is bound to turn around and become its opposite. Whenever a situation develops to its extreme, it must turn around and become its opposite. And this is the Arjun Aiyar version of these two verses. There's a time to be glad and there's a time to be sad. There's a time to be blissed and there's a time to be pissed. There's a time to be determined and there's a time to be depressed. There's a time to be strong and there's a time to be sick. There is a time to have options and there is a time to have obstacles. There is a time to tap into potentials and there is a time to experience problems. There is a time when you are thriving and there is a time when you are barely surviving. There is a time to enjoy your riches and there is a time to endure your rags. There is a time to be in harmony and there is a time to be in hell. Thank you very much.
Wow, Arjun, what a wonderful, mesmerizing session it is. See, I heard that 93% is a body language, 7% is the content. Whoever claimed that, I guess they have to sit with you. They may not stop with 93. They may go for a better number again. But the irony here is you have a beautiful content too. They will go bonkers, definitely. Thank you. Thanks a lot for the yin-yang concept that you brought to our mind, the dualism and opposite, whatever it is, complementing. Then great things. That karate kid, then whenever you get a punch, don't try to block it, move away and grab that strength and give him a punch. So that applies even in our life also. Whenever anyone tries to pick on you, move away from that, focus on your trade, gather the courage, gather the strength and give him a punch at the right time. Great. And what a fantastic, deadly combination, Rohith and Arjun. It as good as, you know, if you are a football fan, Cafu and Roberto Carlos, or Sachin Sehwag, or Waka Yunis and Wasim Akram. Even I can go to the extent that Shah Rukh Khan and Kajal. Great. So definitely, everyone will be having many things, appreciation, questions, many things would be there. I would like to start with Sarita Riaz because she is the one who was our first speaker. I believe she's really a lucky star. See the way how our discussions, our sessions are going. Sarita, are you here in this house?
Sarita is obviously here. Sarita,
I
unmute.
saw she raised her hand.
She's a co-host. I'm trying to unmute her.
Please.
Uh, Sarita, if you can hear me, I'm trying to unmute you. If you're not on the seat, I don't think so because she can unmute herself as she's a co-host.
All right. Sanish has also raised his hand. So can we go to Sanish first and come back to Sarita second? Sanish,
Yeah.
please.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sarita, very much.
All right. Sorry, I was in between something, so just couldn't unmute myself. Yeah, all right. So, what an amazing session today. Yes, I missed being an MC today, to be very honest. Rohith and Arjun, such an amazing session. And both the books, Rohith, your own, and Arjun, the book by Vendaya, both amazing books. And very, very nice review. One of the best we had in our platform. So thank you so much for coming and hosting this session for us. Thank you so much. And Rohith, really, I mean, I haven't read your book, but the concepts in there, very, very familiar, and how you have made it so simple, and so that everybody can understand it. That was mind-blowing. The stories about Ho'oponopono, and what it actually means and so on. So if you have really explained that in in your book, definitely I'm going to pick up and read that again. Though the concept is, I'm familiar with the concept, but maybe I know it, I've understood it slightly differently than the way that you have explained. So thank you so much for bringing that book to us. And Arjun, a lot of information has been shared, right from history to how Lao Tzu, and how to pronounce even these words. So maybe we are all pronouncing it wrong. Tao, Dao, and a lot of information. It's not just a book review, but a lot of information sharing as well. So thank you so much. Really happy that I attended the session today, and really happy to hear this review from both of you. So thank you. Thanks, Nias.
Thank you, Sarita. That was really wonderful. Quickly, let me move on to Sanish, please. Sanish.
Hello, everyone. I'm audible?
Very much.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. Rohith and Arjun, thank you very much for coming to eBookery. If you have seen the earlier versions of eBookery, the 8 chapters, it was all so energetic and powerful. And today is such a calm day. And you guys have brought in so much calmness. Nobody is willing to come up and give a review also. Everyone is just in their sleepy mood. And I don't know, they're all in cloud 9. Amazing, amazing. Yeah. I like both the books. The first book by Rohith, amazing simplicity, and you are just such a humble guy and a straightforward guy. That is seen from your review and the style you have written the book. You said you can finish the book in 30 minutes, but you made the process very easy. You explained everything in 20 minutes. I don't want to go step by step, but the most important thing you said is action. Now, if we break down the letters, action, it just means act I on. Like everyone who reads doesn't actually act on what information they get. And action is such a strong word, and we should always put action into whatever information we are getting. Thank you very much for reminding that, Rohith.